The last time I reviewed a Romance of Men sword, it was not good quality. This was a few years ago. They have improved. They have listened to you and I. They were kind enough to send me this sample, and I'm going to give it a quick review to see what and if they've improved on their swords. Okay, the model name is called Surudoi. Surudoi means sharp, and this sword is definitely sharp. For the price point of $155 on sale, that's a good blade. It's a handmade katana, and they call it extra sharp spring steel. What type of steel, I don't know. It didn't list. I'm guessing it's a 5160. The overall length is 41 inches. The blade length is 28. That's very standard. And the weight is 1.5 kilograms, 53 ounces. That's with the sheath. This is a good sword for beginners, I think. It's a budget sword, 5160 probably. Spring steel is going to be very forgiving when you cut. Let's start near the kashira. The kashira is made of just kind of an alloy, aluminum type stuff. It's nothing to write home about. It's clearly cast. It's got a mitsudomoe on it. It's a bit muddy, and the transition to the Ito is not good. It's a bit bunchy there, a bit sharp. However, they have definitely improved over the last model that I got. The Ito itself is quite tight, and I think the Samegawa is real. So good job on the Ito as far as improving it. Again, I've had some in the past that were so loose, they were almost laughable. So they've done a really good job at improving whoever is wrapping the handles of these swords. Excellent on that part. The manuki are also of the mitsudomoe, and it's quite muddy. The casting is not very good, but again, it serves a purpose, gives you a little something to look at. The transition down to the Suba guard is better. It's at least smoother there, and I like the casting of the Suba guard with the mitsudomoe. It looks pretty good. Some people would say it's gaudy with the gold mimi and stuff on the edge, but I think it's okay. The habaki's got another design on it, which is always good if you have a habaki that is not just plain. I like that. Quality is fair on there. Looking at the blade, this is probably the best part of the sword. This is called an unokubi zukuri, which means cormorant's neck. So it has a deep scoop on the shinogi-ji, at least 2/3 of the blade, and then it refills out over by the kasaki. So it's a really interesting geometry for this quality of sword. I really enjoy that. The last 2/3 of the blade are thinner, so it's going to go through targets quite nicely, and then the kasaki is a bit bolstered for stabbing. I like the double bohi. You don't see that often on a sword at this price point. It has a thin bohi fuller going about 3/4 of the way up, and then it has a large bohi to lighten the blade near the habaki. The blade is quite heavy. I would call this a medium weight sword. The handle itself feels a bit hollow, so it's a heavier blade. It's going to cut and pull you a bit forward. The balance is fair on this sword, but again, for a price point of $155, it's pretty good. I like the speckled painted saya, which keeps your fingerprints off of the top half of the scabbard. They said the hardness of the blade is a 53 HRC, and the koshirai are copper suba, and a real ray skin samegawa. In this price point, you often see fake ray skin, so good job at putting real ray skin. That's another bonus. Because the blade is spring steel, it's through hardened. It has no hara, no grain, has no hamon, no yakiba. It's just basically a solid piece of sharp steel to go through targets. The blade is definitely going to reset well if you have a scoop cut or a bad cut. The edge is very sharp. How it holds up with cutting targets, I don't know. I'm not going to do tameshigiri. I'm injured right now, so my cuts would all be one-handed. So I'm going to wait and cut with this sword later on when I heal. So the negatives of the sword, it's a bit gaudy looking. It's a bit top-heavy. The sheath can get caught a little bit. The seal is good as far as positives. Has a mild polish. It has a very interesting geometry and blade shape. Very good bonus points on that. You do not see that on this budget sword. Medium weight sword, okay balance, a bit top heavy as I said. There's no rattling in the saya. The blade is better quality than the look of the hilt. This is a very, very, very sharp blade. It's definitely going to serve you well if you're cutting water bottles or light targets. I don't know how it will go through bamboo. I haven't seen anyone cutting online through bamboo yet. So, is the Surudoi sharp blade worth it? I think yes. For $155, what I would have done for this years ago. I love the geometry of the blade. U.S.A feels a bit light, so it's a bit top heavy, but it's going to give you power to go through your targets. Good job, Romance of Men, at listening to feedback at people such as myself and tightening up your wrap and fixing your blade. I think it looks pretty good, but for $150, you can't go wrong. So head over to Romance of Men and pick up this particular model, or pick up a different type of model depending on what your budget is. Thanks again to Romance of Men for sending this sample along. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.